Hi and welcome back, State of Flexers. I am Matt, and October the 4th be with you. This is the 6th installment of my Star Wars retrospective. Here to talk to you about the 6th film in release order, or the 3rd film in chronological canon, and that is Star Wars Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith. Now, I think for most people anyway, this is the best of the prequel films, and I think that's sort of inarguable. I like the filmmaking tactics behind Phantom Menace more than I like the filmmaking tactics used to execute Revenge of the Sith, but Revenge of the Sith is the first one that has a script that shows any kind of competency. It has emotional payoff that really can't work without the other two films, which is a little on the frustrating side because this film is so good and those ones are so not as good, is the polite way of saying that. But yeah, Revenge of the Sith is my favorite of the Star Wars prequels, and I think of the first 6 movies, it's the best one since Empire Strikes Back. I do find this film to be a more complete and finer experience than Return of the Jedi. I think some of the payoff scenes in Return of the Jedi work better than in this film, but mostly I think this movie helps to support and elevate the parts of Return of the Jedi that really do work, and helps that movie, which upon some scrutiny could fall apart. With the benefit of this prequel in specific, I think it helps support those strengths even more. So, this film is quite exceptionally good. The screenplay written by George Lucas is, I think, the strongest of the original 6 screenplays. I like this screenplay quite a bit. It has a lot going on, and while the dialogue doesn't fire on all cylinders, it does work better than any of the previous 2 other films, and I think the dialogue holds up better than in New Hope. And even has a couple fantastic lines, not just line deliveries. Of course, Obi-Wan's "Hello there" is quite spectacular, but it's so this is how Liberty dies, with thunderous applause, excellently delivered by Natalie Portman. Excellent line. That's one of my favorite lines in all of cinema. It's really that good. The movie has some striking visual symbolism, which goes to the filmic language that I was talking about with those early Star Wars films. Lucas never really evolved the visual style from A New Hope. All the movies that he directed have kind of a sameness, which is good. I mean, that's what a world should have. However, going from Hope to Empire had a very different dynamic visual language that regressed with Return of the Jedi, and I think the prequels maintained that visual language for 1, 2, and 3. That said, what he chooses to fill the frames with in this film, I think, are some of the most striking images that you can get. Both just visually stunning, but also symbolically. You have the gorgeous scene with Anakin and Palpatine at the weird water orb opera. That is just visually dazzling. In a movie that is all about spectacle, you have a quiet scene with 2 men talking to each other, and what's being said is super important, but that scene never gets tired or boring because, particularly Ian McDiarmid's performance, is so strong. But also, whenever it cuts away or from the back view of what they're watching, is just fascinating. Every single ounce of that frame is filled with something visually interesting, whether it's the emotion on the actors' faces or what's behind them or in front of them. But then my favorite moment in Revenge of the Sith visually is the battle between Yoda and Palpatine. And it's taking place in the Senate quarters, where we've seen this location in the previous two films. And those scenes oftentimes are the scenes that come under scrutiny when talking about the prequels, how boring the political nature of the film is. But you need those scenes to execute this scene, which is the visual symbolism of the Emperor, now an Emperor, just disintegrating the Senate. He is destroying it willfully. The visual storytelling that's happening there. Nothing is said in that moment, but you get that that is what is happening. The Emperor is getting rid of the Senate. The laws are about to change. The world as we know it is completely changed. And just scenes, 1-2 scenes before that, you had the Emperor reveal himself in the Godfather homage, where he declares the First Galactic Empire. The camera lowers, his arms rise. It's everything about that is just spectacularly shot, and this is where Lucas is a genius. He knows how to shoot a movie when it's something that he's passionate about, something that he cares about, to present striking visual images. That's something that Episode 1 had, striking visual images. People don't like that movie, but the images from that movie are ingrained in pop culture. It's just too bad the movie couldn't support the weight of the dazzling visuals that were on screen. This movie can. So, let's break it into story. The story is, this is the tragedy of Anakin Skywalker, the fall of Anakin, fall of a hero, rise of a villain, who are one and the same. My concern going into this when I first saw the movie is Anakin was not painted in a particularly likable quality in Attack of the Clones, especially. And in this film, you want to know where that sympathy is going to come in. And the sympathy is definitely there. And the sympathy comes from a few moments where Hayden Christensen really shines. I did kind of attack his performance in the previous one. He's great here. So where Anakin really works to strive to get your sympathy is you can see the frustration and the weight that he has on him in this movie. You didn't get that before. In this one, he sells it. And it's that you have that kind of fun opening space battle where you can see the dynamic between Anakin and Obi-Wan, the friendship, the collaboration, and the cooperation. The maturity that Anakin has had off-screen is really pretty palpable and appreciated. Because that's, I think, more of what we wanted all along. And Anakin is a little more rough and roguish, and that is, I think, what we wanted more of. Not so much the whiny fella from the previous movie. Don't worry, he will whine. There will be wine. But here he's more of a rough rogue, and that is quite compelling. The scene where he meets up with Padme and she tells him of her pregnancy, and the moment of like, oh shit, my world is going to change. I don't know what this means for the Jedi Order. I don't know if I can even continue with this. I don't know what this means for her or what's going to happen with her. But I'm at the same time flooded with emotion and elated, but I'm not allowed to show that. He wears all this within the span of like 2 or 3 seconds. I think it's a really strong performance. He sells that moment quite well. And that's where you find your sympathies, is all tied to that one singular moment. If that moment doesn't work for you, the movie and Anakin's storyline in it probably won't work for you. But for me, it really, really works. So hats off, Hayden. I knew you could act because I watched Shattered Glass, and I hope in the interim the people who watched this also watch Shattered Glass, because that movie is effing fantastic. Anyway, Ewan McGregor is really the shining star of this film. He is so good, and his evolution of Obi-Wan from episode 1 through here, where you see the connective tissue of how this man becomes Alec Guinness, is so strong, and he looks strikingly like him as well. Cat, always with the eating at the most inopportune times. Anyway, he is great. He has so much likability and cunning and emotion and stuff. He lets it all fly, and he is so good. This movie does not work without him on the level that he is working at. The other key ingredient of this film is Ian McDiarmid as the Emperor. He had been great in his brief moments in episode 2 and episode 1, and he was a scene stealer in Return of the Jedi. This is his movie. This is where he's spectacular. He plays this movie like a fiddle. It is so good. He hams it up. There's just enough ham to make the film like arch and his character arch, but hot damn if he is not the most intriguing thing on screen at every moment that he's on it. He is so good, and I love his lightsaber battle with Mace Windu. CGI doesn't hold up too well on the fake Palpatine mask in that scene. Doesn't hold up too well, but I love that scene. Everything about it is great. The visual colors of the scene, the red, the purple, the greens, everything is so strong and so interesting to look at. I love this movie. Absolutely love it. I do think that it has two relatively, I'm going to say three kind of relatively weak angles. The opening scene, even though I like the interplay between Anakin and Obi-Wan and we need it, is a little disjointed from a lot of the rest of the film. It's fun, it's poppy, and I enjoy it, but compared to the rest of the film, you don't have the dramatic weight or heft that it needs. However, you need that scene because you didn't get that with the previous two installments, and you need that camaraderie between Anakin and Obi-Wan. So I get why it's there. And it's also to establish another new villain in General Grievous. Not sure we needed that character, however, I like him. He's interesting and compelling, and they fleshed him out considerably in other media. But speaking to this film on its own, he seems like out of nowhere, so that reinforces the out-of-nowhere-ness of the opening scene. The use of Padme is a touch disappointing. She goes from being an incredibly active participant in the action and the storytelling of episode 1 particularly. She is the shining star of that film. Episode 2, she is a strong support system for the whole film. What works best is often her, even though she has like a cardboard actor to work off of, because they have zero chemistry in that film. It's a little better in this movie. She's relegated to the sidelines here and just like, I'm pregnant person, and that's all she does. That's her role in Revenge of the Sith, which is incredibly disappointing coming off the first two movies. I would have liked to have seen her a little more active, and my understanding is in the original screenplay she was, but she was more active in a diplomatic way, which was quite interesting and compelling. And some of those deleted scenes are on the DVD and Blu-ray supplemental material, and those scenes are really, really, really good. And it's a damn shame that we don't have them in the final cut, because I would rather have more of that than more of the opening scene stuff. Which apparently was an hour long at one point, the whole rescue of Palpatine. This is going to be a good point to, I'll touch on my third small problem with the movie in a second. This is a good point to talk about the novelizations. I've read the novelizations of all 11 of the main live-action feature films. And 4, 5, and 6 are written well. They're pretty good. Episode 4, A New Hope, particularly so. Alan Dean Forrester wrote that one quite well. But the prequels were written by very prominent sci-fi writers of the time. Terry Brooks wrote Phantom Menace. That, all the people who say the Phantom Menace they're not a fan of because it's too kiddie, too jokey, read that book. That book is extraordinarily good. It's one of the few instances where I think the book is considerably better in every way than the movie, and I like the movie. I happen to like Phantom Menace, but that Terry Brooks, Episode 1, Phantom Menace, read it. Super good. And also it kind of cuts out the annoying nature of Jar Jar, or the more offensive nature of Jar Jar anyway. Because I do think Ahmed Best is a very good actor. And he is good in that role, he just wasn't restrained. Anyway, watch my Phantom Menace review, I covered that a little bit. R.A. Salvatore wrote Episode 2, Attack of the Clones, and that one's pretty good as well. The third one is easily the best of the three books. It is, I believe, written by Matthew Vaughn, I want to say his name is. I could be wrong. The word Fry is coming out in my head, so maybe it's Matthew Fry Vaughn. He good, I tell you. No, the Revenge of the Sith one is easily the best of the Star Wars novelizations, and I think it's the best Star Wars book I've ever written. I've read a couple of the extended universe that are now defunct. I've read a couple of the Disney canon books, and easily the best one is Revenge of the Sith. So incredibly well written. The dramatic weight is there. You get so much more that you didn't get in the movie that, from my understanding, was in the original screenplay. And you get a more active Padme in the story as she builds the Resistance, or the Alliance, or whatever. So yeah, very, very good. Read that. My last minute complaint would be... One second. Hop back 1 second. Natalie Portman, excellently performed the whole way through. She isn't the problem. The way she is written is, or edited into the film, is the problem. Last little problem. This movie ends perfectly. The last 50 minutes or whatever, from the moment that Order 66 is executed onwards, is the best that Star Wars, anything that we got since Empire Strikes Back. It is so incredibly good. It is my favorite. Everything works. Performances across the board. Everything is executed amazingly. And you get the reveal of Darth Vader in a beautiful cross-cut symmetry of as Padme takes her last breath, Anakin, or Vader, takes his first. And she falls just as he rises into the frame. It's beautiful, stunning work. That whole scene of where's Padme? Is she safe? Is she alright? That whole scene. All of that is a good scene. I like that her first thought when she comes to is where's Anakin? Is he alright? The very first thing Anakin says, that's the last bit you get of Anakin until Return of the Jedi, if you're watching chronologically. That's the last moment of Anakin, where his thought goes to Padme, and I like the Emperor, in your anger, you killed her. And then no, I couldn't have. She was alive, I felt it. And then he breaks the chains, and he... the force is just wild around him, breaking everything. It's the most stunning moment, ruined with no. And of all the things that Lucas changed, all he needed to do is just lift the no, just drop that right in the bin, and replace it with just like a straight bellow. Just a bellow of anger is all that we needed. We get the rage. We see it visually. If you want to have him say or articulate anything, you don't need to have him say no. Just have him gutturally rage and release that anger. And it is one of the best scenes. Made tragically comical with the and like the way he elongates the N rather than the O is really tragic. That is the true tragedy of Darth Vader. The not knowing where to elongate the N or the O in no for dramatic weight. That O doesn't work half as well as no, but whatever. So, yeah, those are my 3 problems with Revenge of the Sith. But I don't think any of them are enough to really sully the quality that is there. There's one other scene that I would have liked to have gotten. Really 2. One is, I remember after he had been killed in Phantom Menace, I read an interview with Liam Neeson in 2001 saying that he will be back for a small role in Revenge of the Sith. And then I remember reading in 2005 an interview for Batman Begins where he said that his next project will be Revenge of the Sith. Because he was shooting those sort of simultaneously. He had a little break and he was going to do a scene for Revenge of the Sith. I wish we would have gotten just his voiceover for Revenge of the Sith in the scene. You get that scene in the book that I was telling you about, the novelization. You get the scene that would have been there. And it's not like a long scene, but it would have had a nice, like, rounding off of the franchise. And that I like the idea that Qui Gon is a Force ghost that isn't in corporeal form like we get with Obi-Wan and Yoda and Anakin later. He's purely a voice in the Force, and he's going to instruct them, and through them they will find the true enlightenment on how to become one with the Force in full, because luminous beings are we, not this crude matter. That is a scene that I really wish was there, and I can't believe that in any of the tinkerings that he's done, he even tinkered with the Blu-ray release, that didn't ever get added in. He even recorded Liam Neeson for the Clone Wars TV show, so why is that not there? I'm over it. The other thing that I would have liked to have seen is more of an assault on the Jedi. The Jedi, as used in this, on the whole, are treated much more like we got Luke and in the original trilogy, where they're a little more clumsy, a little more, they have powers because they're in tune to their environment around them, but they're not superheroes, and that's the Jedi that I like. However, you have shown 2 movies and this one where you're following like these Jedi deities who are doing like incredible feats. And if you watched the Samurai Jack Star Wars Clone Wars shorts, they're doing even more superhero-y stuff that came out right before this movie that tied directly into the movie, took you to the second that the movie started. They're doing stuff like that as well. To have the montage of Order 66, which I think is extraordinarily good, have these Jedi just get gunned down. I understand why that happens, but you have visually told us otherwise in 2 films that they should be able to stop this, even if they are blinded by the Force or whatever, clouded by the dark side. That doesn't change how you've presented these characters in the past. So I would have liked to have had a little more of a struggle or an amping up of the battle scenes. I know you're trying to make a nice, concise movie, and you really need to do away with all the Jedi in a single moment. I liked Ki-Adi-Mundi's death, where he just is shocked that the clones are turning on him and starts fighting back. But like Aayla Secura's death, and the weird Bane-looking guy, can't remember his name, Typho or something like that? No, that's the guy who piloted the ship, Padme's. I don't know, can't remember his name, but I would have liked a little more action from that. And I love the scene with Jet Lucas, who's one of the last surviving Jedi in the Bail Organa scene. That's how Bail finds out the assault on the Jedi is this lone straggler. I would have liked a lot more of that lingering throughout the movie and stuff, so that they get whittled down throughout the film, and it's not just like, all right, all the non-characters get taken out right away so that we can have our main two to go up against our other main two. That seemed a little contrived and convenient. So in a perfect world, I would have expanded upon that. Let's talk about my favorite aspects of the movie. I really like that opening banter between Obi-Wan and Anakin. I like the Padme Anakin stuff for the most part. I like that Anakin does not become a master, and how Mace Windu just simply does not trust him. I like the use of Mace Windu throughout this entire film, and Sam Jackson nails it. He is so good. I like the scene where the trio of Jedi are flying in the ship discussing the prophecy of the Chosen One and how it could have been misinterpreted. And the look of digital Yoda in this has improved vastly. I love the Seven Samurai visual homage. I like the way that Anakin is seduced, and this movie is a dark mirror to what happens with Luke in Return of the Jedi. These two are really sister films all the way through, and if you watch them back to back, my preferred order of watching these, if I'm not going to do 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, I like to do episode 1, episode 4, so it's a call and response thing, episode 2, episode 5, and you get a nice call and response all the way across when you watch 1, 4, 2, 5, 3, 6. And a lot of the surprises remain intact. You don't know, like, you can surmise that Anakin is Luke's father, but you don't know that Anakin is Vader. That is preserved so that it's still a surprise for Empire Strikes Back going into Revenge of the Sith. Like, I think that's the better way to do it, rather than 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, or the machete cut where you just skip one and you do like 4, 5, 2, 3, 6. I don't know how to include the sequel, prequel stuff into it, but that's my preferred viewing order. Anyway, I like the seduction of Anakin throughout. My favorite scene in the entire movie is the Darth Plagueis the Wise scene is so good. And the you're the Sith Lord, and then the two are like kind of circling around each other, and that scene is extraordinary. I like that Anakin tries to do the right thing and goes to Mace Windu, but then doesn't trust that Mace Windu is going to bring him to the courts, and that's how he gets roped into the whole thing. I like the scene where Anakin pledges himself. I remember like crying when I first saw that in the theater. The moment that he cuts Mace Windu's hand, I rolled a tear because I knew exactly where the rest of the film was going. I liked the whole battle on Mustafar. I liked the whole battle between Yoda and the Emperor because of the visual symbolism. This is a great movie. This is a 4-star movie. This is one of my favorite Star Wars movies. It isn't my favorite. At one time it was, I had made an argument that when there was only 6 of them, I was like, there are 3 great Star Wars movies and the rest are varying degrees of good. And it was New Hope, Empire Strikes Back, and then I stood by this one, maintaining that this has the strongest screenplay of the bunch. And I still kind of stand by that. It's no longer the strongest screenplay, but it does have a very, very good screenplay. Yeah. What are your thoughts on this film? There's a lot that I didn't touch in here, but there's a whole lot of movie here, man. Frank Oz is extraordinary. I mentioned Hayden Christensen, Natalie Portman, or Ewan McGregor, who I just think of as Obi-Wan for the rest of my life. Ian McDermott. These are all powerhouse performances. Sam Jackson. I like the death of Kit Fisto. He's such a neat-looking alien. Missed Shakk-Ti. Wish she would have made the final cut. Where was she? She was so cool looking. And such a big part of those Samurai Jack shorts. I was really disappointed that she didn't make it into this film. And Ayla Secura is rock star. I always liked her character in the brief moments that we see her. But I like that she got a little amped up performance in this one. Yeah, I love this movie. This is one of my go-to movies. This is one of the movies that feels the most Star Wars as well. Empire Strikes Back and this really feel the most Star Wars to me. So yeah, where do you land? Do you love this movie? More contemporary, like I remember when it first came out, I had to fight with my friends that this movie is good, and I think along the passage of time, more and more people turn to this movie as being actually good, like genuinely very good. And fewer people have turned on it now that we have other Star Wars movies that we can shower with the poo. But yeah, I've rambled quite a bit, and I'm done rambling. So yeah, let me know what you think. Up next month, I am going to review the only animated Star Wars feature film that was released theatrically. Next month, we are doing the pilot film, Star Wars Clone Wars, which I saw in theaters on opening night at midnight. And I had thoughts. Thanks for watching. And hit the bell, subscribe. Watch the other videos if you haven't watched it. If you put them all together, these could act as audio commentaries almost. They're so long. But yeah, please watch if you made it to the end. You're a rock star. Like, subscribe. Thank you for